Ag Matters is underwritten by Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is a financial cooperative that provides financing, crop insurance, and related services to farmers and ranchers across the West. From small family businesses to large operations, Ag West brings the experience and financial know-how to help you grow your best future.
Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Mike Chmielewski at Big Cabbage Radio in Palmer, Alaska. It's my great pleasure to focus on a topic that doesn't receive sometimes as much attention as it should, and that's rangeland use in Alaska. And I have two people here on the line, both Lisa and Karin. I'm going to ask them to identify themselves by full name and their position. I'm going to start with Karin because you called first.
Okay, my name is Karin Sonnen, and I am the State Rangeland Management Specialist for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service in Alaska.
Okay, and Lisa?
I am Lisa Ongtowasruk, herd owner, manager of the Ongtowasruk Reindeer herd.
And where is that reindeer herd located?
In Wales, Alaska.
Wales, okay. I'm going to do a full disclosure. I lived in Nome for a few years. And of course, both of you know that reindeer have been herded in Nome for many, many years. I actually, back in the day when I was there, did a translation of a Russian research piece about the herds that were across the water there in the Chukotka region, and I shared that with reindeer herders who are active in the Nome area at the time. I want to throw that out there for whatever it is.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. Okay, let us move on to say let's do the big picture first, and then we'll get toward locus of Wales. What's the big picture overview if someone were to ask about rangeland in Alaska? How much is it? How much of it is used? Those kinds of things. Karin.
So Alaska rangelands make up about 233 million acres, which is more than any other state in the U.S. Yep, so we've got a lot of rangelands. Rangelands are land that supports grasses or grass-like forbs, shrubs, and lichen, and that are capable of being grazed by animals. And so we've got a large amount of rangelands in this state. As to the areas that are designated for livestock grazing, it's probably about 21 million acres of those are designated as being grazed.
What does being designated do for that rangeland?
Well, I guess that just means it's grazed, or it has been designated to be grazed by animals that are managed by people, so not necessarily wildlife, but owned herds.
Okay, so for example, the caribou herds that move across vast parts of the state, they are obviously grazing, but they may, I would guess, drift over onto lands that are designated, but they wouldn't be included in the program or process.
Yeah, they're correct. That's not included in my 21 million acre number. Yes, if you include areas grazed by wildlife, by caribou and muskox, that would be probably closer to the 233 million acres.
Okay. Well, you mentioned muskox, and of course, they're a favorite animal of ours here in the Palmer area. We have the muskox farm. So many people have learned a lot about muskox, but I had a recent trip to Nome and noted that from the time earlier when I had been there, muskox had proliferated and in some ways didn't know where they should graze. They seem to be grazing everywhere. Do you have any comments about muskox grazing in Alaska?
Yes, there are a lot of muskox now. There was a reintroduction that went on, which started by bringing muskox over from Greenland and all the way to Nunivak Island, and then they were reintroduced, and they've done very well. I think they like, around Nome in particular, they like those areas that have been mined and now are growing sedges.
Yes.
They green up early in the spring, and they take advantage of that.
Right. That works that way. Then let's take that as a jumping off point to ask the bigger question about what animals are grazed on the designated lands. What's the most if you will, popular animal to graze and on. So,
Yeah, I would say that's definitely in Alaska. That's reindeer.
okay.
Yep.
I think that's a cue for Lisa. Lisa, talk about the reindeer in your area.
500 maybe grazing on my grazing range.
So has that number been growing lately? I know over the years there have been some changes over the long term, but is that a growth number or pretty steady or what?
Like a bit of a growth in the past few years.
Okay, the first part then of reindeer herding is they grow, and at some point they are harvested. Talk a little bit about the process of harvesting. What happens to the reindeer that are harvested?
My partner, he'd go out butchering with some of the guys who'd go help him make butcher some meat, bring it home and work on that meat to be process it to get it sent out to somebody that was wanting to purchase the meat.
Now, is some of that, obviously some meat is used locally, but you suggested some might be sent out. Where would it go, be sold?
Well, we'd have some, there's like people who would be wanting to buy some meat, post it on Facebook to see if there's anybody willing to purchase meat available or put orders into butchers.
So maybe you, Lisa, or Karin could answer this question. I know there's always a question of processing meat for sale in a way that satisfies whatever state or federal requirements are there. Karin, are you aware of what those are in general and how they apply here?
For USDA inspected meat, there's a stringent facilities requirement, and an inspector has to be there. And if one were to go through that process, then they could sell their meat to restaurants or other people who maybe process that into more other things like jerky. There are Alaska-specific rules that the state allows. So if the ground is frozen and covered with snow,
right,
and it's below 32 degrees, then there can be some processing. And if the meat is frozen immediately and stays frozen, then it can be sold legally to other people. But typically what happens is local people will tell people like Lisa, the reindeer herders, that they want to buy a deer, and they'll buy the deer and then they'll either go shoot it themselves or Lisa will dispatch it and provide that meat. Is that right, Lisa?
Yes. So for our herd, we would go out and go butcher it. I have not done any to where they butcher themselves. It's been where we would butcher and get it sent out.
Right. Back in Nome, back in the day, a long time ago, we would have to get a permit, and then we would be able to hunt the reindeer, and then we could process, at that time, we could process for our own use the deer.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what happens with cattle direct sales also in the state. Mm-hmm.
So how many people do you think, Lisa, are involved in reindeer herding and processing in the Wales area?
Estimate anywhere from 30, 40, 50 people. Summertime, I need at least 15, 20 people to get them corralled. Wintertime, it's about around 5 guys that would help my partner do the butchering and keep them on the range. Okay,
right. And is your herd the only one in the Wales area, or are there others?
Specifically in the Wales area, there's some surrounding herds that are, or some surrounding grazing ranges that have inactive herds. And then I think the closest herd active might be in Nome.
Right.
Nome area.
I think so. And when you say inactive, what does that mean?
They used to have herds, but they no longer have them due to losing them to caribou or...
Right. Are they? What you're saying is that they're no longer, even though they may exist, they're no longer being managed
that from my understanding, is they no longer have a herd that is active under their management.
Okay. Karin, are you aware of where reindeer herds are located other than the Wales and potentially the Nome area?
Yep, they are located. We have reindeer on St. Lawrence Island,
okay,
and Nunivak Island,
right,
Atka Island,
okay,
and Umnak Island. Some south of the Seward Peninsula in the Stebbins St. Michael area as well.
Right.
That's about it for the rangeland that I can think of right off the top of my head. Oh, excuse me, St. Paul and St. George, the Pribilof Islands.
Of course.
They have herds as well.
Yeah. Is it easier to have the reindeer on the islands, do you think?
In some ways, it is. They have them definitely. They can keep them on that island. Predators are not so much of an issue on the islands, but also they can't overlap. And so if their range gets to if they have a rain on snow event or they need access to more range, sometimes they can't get to that. So yes and no.
Got it. Now, Lisa mentioned the losing of reindeer to caribou. Talk about what that means, Karin. Did that happen across the state?
So it especially happened, the largest reindeer herding area is definitely the Seward Peninsula.
Right.
And in the 1980s and 1990s, the Western Arctic caribou herd changed its migration pattern from where it was typically going in the last, 40 or 50 years to moving westward onto the Seward Peninsula.
Right.
And as the years went along, they went further and further west in the winter and then went back up to the North Slope in the summer. And they took the reindeer herds got mixed with them, and being a herding animal, they went north as well. And so a lot of people lost their entire herds. It was a sad time.
Right. So they went away with I have this image. They went away with the large movement of the caribou. And then what about intermarriage, if you would, interbreeding?
Yeah, that's been looked at, and they've done genetic testing on the Western Arctic caribou herd, and they did not see a lot of reindeer blood influenced in there. And they think that's for a couple reasons. Reindeer will fawn about 3 weeks earlier than caribou do.
Okay.
And so they may have been on the move while the reindeer are fawning, and those fawns may have become victim to predators.
Got it.
Also, they think that perhaps the reindeer bulls can't compete with the caribou bulls that are a little bit bigger. I'm sure the reindeer were stressed. They're not used to or genetically been bred for walking that far. Well, caribou will go miles and miles and miles in a day, and reindeer are typically more sedentary. They have more sight fidelity. So I'm sure that stressed them.
So it sounds as if what will happen if an entire, say, reindeer herd is taken by the caribou as they move off, the reindeer proportion of that herd will gradually diminish.
Yes, I think so. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Mike Chmielewski here, Big Cabbage Radio in Palmer, Alaska, and I'm speaking both Lisa from Wales and Karin from USDA about rangelands, and in particular, we've been focused on reindeer at the moment. Let's circle back to rangelands themselves. Is there, I guess this is a question I've been asking recently in California, where there is a different kind of rangeland and growth of herds, and I keep wondering, there seems to be an impact of changing climates, the weather. What, if anything, is affecting the quality, if you will, of the rangelands now as opposed to, say, 30 or 40 years ago?
Yeah. So there are definitely potentials, and Lisa would be a good one to ask what she's seen in her exact case. Potentials are more thawing in the winter time, so we can have either thawing or rain on snow events, and that's a big deal because that'll cause an ice layer in the snowpack, and the reindeer, the caribou, the muskox, they need to dig down to get to lichen because that's how they're surviving these long winters. And if they can't dig their way down and get access to that, then there can be die-offs. So that's a big one. Another one is the fire frequency that we're seeing change, and the state has done a lot of studies on that and looked at the trends over the last 30 and 40 years, and fires are increasing in size and frequency, and that will have an impact on winter range for these animals as well.
Okay. Lichen,
again, is important, and when a fire goes through, it will wipe out the lichen for several decades.
So back to you, Lisa, then, as Karin has suggested, what locally have you seen as changing effects of climate on, or any of the factors she's just talked about, fire, et cetera?
See, I do see the thawing with the rain and snow events that does cause like this winter, this past winter, it was very thick of hard pack
Right.
from that rain event that we had in the winter. That affects for the meat quality. It's not as bad, and like the meat doesn't. The reindeer don't get as bad.
I understand. Okay. Well, Lisa and Karin, I thought I knew a little bit about it, and you extended my understanding about reindeer here. I guess my last question to you both is, what do you want our listeners to know most about rangeland, whether it's muskox grazing or reindeer or whatever? Let's start with Lisa. What would you like to leave with the listeners? Karin, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that rangelands in Alaska in particular are getting some attention, because in the lower 48, they forget about us sometimes, and we've got a tremendous amount of rangeland that's being grazed, and it's important, and it's been grazed for a long time, for generations. In Lisa's case, she's had her herd. Her herd has been in her family for at least 3, maybe 4 generations, and the United Nations has declared as the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, and I think that's pretty neat. 143 countries have signed on to that, including the United States. So I love that there's attention coming to rangelands, because they're important and a great way to turn plants into meat, into protein, and they're important.
Right. I've been there, tasted that. Okay, Lisa. Lisa, back to you. Last comments for listeners.
To be a reindeer herd, you have to be ready for the hard work where it's necessary and have that good support system. It's been quite low learning experience being on the managing side.
Yes. You expect to continue going, though. At the present time, it looks like the herd will have a future.
Yes, this herd definitely has a future within, but hopefully within the family.
Got it. Well, Lisa, Karin, thank you both for taking the time to call in and share information with listeners. I think there'll be a number of people who will be thankful that you were able to share that. So stay well out there, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.